OC Parks just announced the grand opening of the new Gypsum Canyon Wilderness. 500 acres of pristine nature in North Orange County. 5 miles of new trails, now for all to enjoy.
Sweet, new trails. Let's go ride on them.
Not so fast. For those that didn't read all the way into the article, you may have missed the part about how this is only open by advanced registration on certain days of the month. So why exactly is this? Well, it could be because they were given the land under a conservation easement, and they're afraid that people will trash it if they leave it open all the time. It could be that they're trying to look good for the Irvine company who just gave them millions of dollars worth of land in hopes they will eventually get more from them, because apparently the last 3 things they got from Irvine are also open under the same restriction. Or it could be because they don't have enough funding to staff the preserve full time to have it open. At any rate, I was somewhat offended by this news because I'm the type of person that can barely be bothered to create an online account to buy tickets to a Little Rob concert, never mind to visit nature, which I can do pretty much anywhere else in Southern California whenever I want to. But before you start protesting outside of OC Park's offices, I must point out this. The Laguna Coast Wilderness in South County was originally open under the same restrictions back in the 90s, and it wasn't until about 15 years later that it became open to the general public. So there's definitely hope that this can be more accessible in the future. So I thought I'd head down anyways to see if I could get a better look at this place. But first, a little history on the area. Between the 60s and the mid-2000s, it was an active mining operation. Then in the 80s, they wanted to build a jail and a landfill on the site, which didn't happen. Then in the 2000s, there were plans of developing it into housing, which also didn't happen. Then in the 2010s, the Irvine Company donated the land to the county, and now they're going to build a cemetery there along with this nature preserve. The cemetery itself is a bit of a controversial subject, which isn't really my battle. I'm more of the George Carlin type, just compost the dead, so of course I'm against it. But let's go check them out, shall we? At first glance, this looks like a terrible location in general, because it's a freeway off-ramp bisected by 2 streets dead-ending into each other. I can already see how the argument about funeral procession traffic jams would be valid, especially considering the 91 is already the most congested freeway in the country apparently. Upon closer look, we can see the entire place is gated off, with the new Gypsum Canyon Wilderness signs behind the fence. Not very inviting. You know, I can see why they wouldn't want to leave this open all the time. In such a remote location next to a freeway, they probably don't want people hopping off dumping dead bodies in there. Which is what people use the freeway for, right? Sorry, I'm a bit out of touch with car culture. Speaking of dead people, here we have the sign about the new cemetery, and the gigantic flag they've erected behind it, which can be seen for miles. Well, this is depressing, we're not going to be able to get in. Let's go somewhere else. Fortunately for us non-car owning heretics, there is an entrance to basically the same wilderness, a 1.5 miles east of here along the Santa Ana River bike trail called Coal Canyon. This used to be an actual off-ramp on the 91, but was closed some time ago and is now for emergency use only. The remaining off-ramp segment is entirely encapsulated by a 10-foot high fence, so if you're expecting to enter here illegally, you'll probably need some Spider-Man skills. From the entrance at Coal Canyon, one can access the Santa Ana Mountains portion of the Cleveland National Forest, home to some amazing hiking. But suppose you're not the wilderness type. On the other side of the 91 off of Gypsum Canyon is Canyon RV Park, or Featherly Regional Park. It's actually quite ambiguous which one it is, because according to the website, Featherly Regional Park technically doesn't exist as a park in the traditional sense, yet the privately owned Canyon RV Park exists entirely inside of it. It's confusing, and that's probably why they took the Featherly Regional Park sign off the Canyon RV Park sign, because people were probably trying to come in and have their birthday parties and bounce houses and everything else you would expect out of a regional park, when really it's a privately owned campground. Well, suppose you're into trains. Just across the river is Brush Canyon Park, home to BNSF freight trains, 2 Metrolink lines, and the Amtrak Southwest Chief. But wait, there's more. Just down the street from here is the Susanna Bixby Bryant Museum and Botanic Gardens, which is only open 1 day a month. But adjacent to that is a segment of the original Cajon Canal, which used to transmit water from the Santa Ana River up to what is now Tri-City Park, which used to be a reservoir for irrigation. Parts of the canal right-of-way have been turned into bike trails throughout the city, but the part I find most fascinating about this is Tri-City Park appears to be higher in altitude than the Santa Ana River, but water actually flowed downhill because of the contouring of the hills. This preserved portion of the canal is paralleled by a pomegranate-lined promenade. Pomegranates. Everywhere pomegranates. Well, thanks for joining me in this adventure of an often overlooked freeway off-ramp. Even though the Gypsum Canyon wilderness isn't open per se, there's still a lot to see here. Lastly, I would like to thank my friend and fellow naturalist Joel Robinson for helping me fill in the information gaps for the intro. At the expense of sounding like a complete hypocrite, if you are the type of person that can be bothered to create an online account to help enjoy nature better, check out Naturalist for You on meetup.com. We host guided nature hikes throughout Southern California.